An actual good slasher is hard to come by. The classics like Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and The GOAT, Halloween, are all really good. The originals are always really good. Sequels, not so much. It's true, the sequels are never as good as the originals, and those franchises are inconsistent at best. Wes Craven, the creator of A Nightmare on Elm Street, in the 90s went on to do Scream. He was the creator of the Scream franchise. When he made Scream in 1996, he made Ghostface just as recognizable as Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, and Michael Myers. Let's take a look at the franchise as a whole. Only Scream 3 ended up being rotten on Rotten Tomatoes, and yes, the audience score is a little bit lower in the middle, but this is one of the most consistent franchises in slasher history. Having said that, does the sequel to the requel continue the hot streak for the series? Taking place about a year after the last movie, we see Sam, Tara, Mindy, and Chad all move to New York to go to college. Not just for college, but also to kind of escape what happened to them in the last movie, to kind of move on with life and forget about Ghostface. But naturally, Ghostface appears and is after them again. After what happened in the last movie, we see how close that these four friends, these four survivors, have become since then. Sam is having an incredibly hard time coping with killing her boyfriend and his partner, or his other girlfriend, who were both Ghostface. We're able to kind of sympathize with her with what she went through as far as killing someone. Sam blames herself for everything that's happened in the last movie. And you know, if Sam is a bit unstable, a little cautious after what happened to her in that last movie, I think that's okay. Sam has become overly protective of her sister Tara, which causes friction because Tara just wants to move on with her life. Chad and Mindy both have a lot more to do in this movie and seem more like main characters than they were in the last movie. And I think it's because of that dynamic of the core four, the family dynamic that they've built since the last one. We gotta talk about Kirby coming back. She was one of my favorite characters in Scream 4. They bring her back in a way that makes sense and is believable. Years after Scream 4, Kirby comes back as an FBI agent who specializes in Ghostface killings. Overall, the main characters in Scream 6 are all likable. They really play off of that family dynamic that they built from the last movie's events, and you really get the sense that they would do anything to keep each other safe. The setting of New York wasn't just a breath of fresh air for the franchise, but it also allowed the filmmakers to get as creative as they wanted, whether that was setting up unique shots or using the whole New York setting to create unique ways to basically kill off the survivors. We have subway scene, we have an alleyway scene, we have a lot of different ways that New York lent itself to the creative process of the movie. We were told that the kills in this movie were going to be a lot more brutal, and I definitely agree. Ghostface is very angry in this one. You can hear it every time he or she speaks or moves or kills, whatever it may be. Ghostface is very angry and aggressive in this movie. One thing that we should definitely talk about as far as what worked for the movie was no Sidney Prescott. If they brought Sidney into this story that they were trying to tell, it would have just been very unbelievable and very forced. There was no reason that she would need to be in New York because this isn't her story anymore. This movie is focused solely on Sam. I really don't want to do this. I did not want to get to this part of the video, but here we are. Scream 6 starts strong, and it continues to be strong with the characters and the storytelling. However, I have to say that as impressed and invested as I was for the majority of the movie, it lost me in the last 20 minutes. The reveal wasn't necessarily bad, but the motivation just wasn't there for me. Not to say that it wasn't a reasonable motivation, it just seemed a bit underwhelming and not really believable. My biggest issue with Scream 6 is that it seemed like there was no consequences. I don't want to say too much because Scream is essentially a murder mystery at its core. But I will say that I feel like the writing is a bit lazy and unbelievable for the last act of the movie. It essentially throws logic out of the window just to make sure that certain characters achieve a goal, whether that is to live, die, escape, whatever it may be. So I will say that the final act was a big letdown for me. Oh, and a quick side note, Gail's involvement in this movie was completely unnecessary. She did nothing. She was just there to be there. If she wasn't in the movie, nothing would have changed. The pacing in Scream 6 is really good. From the opening scene, we're given a great introduction to New York City and Ghostface. It slowly builds the mystery of who Ghostface is, while also giving a ton of intense buildup to a kill or a chase scene involving Ghostface. It takes its time building the relationship between all of the characters and the side characters as well, while simultaneously giving us some of the most intense and gory action scenes in the Scream franchise. While the majority of characters in Scream 6 are likable, mostly the main cast, but some of the side characters as well, this makes it much easier to digest and sit through watching these people, whether they're solo on screen or they're acting together. Also, the scenes with Ghostface are some of the best in the franchise, which that by itself is probably enough to make people want to rewatch the movie. Scream 6 is just as rewatchable as the other movies in the franchise, if not more, because of the new setting and a much more aggressive Ghostface. Scream 6 changes a lot about the franchise in a very refreshing way. They change the opening scene, which is very formulaic throughout the franchise, and just turns it on its head and starts off in a very positive note. The gore is turned up significantly in this one, so be ready for that. Every scene in New York was in a cramped area, such as an alleyway, an apartment, a crowded subway, which were all great and gave us a very claustrophobic feel. Using New York in this movie worked really well for the set pieces, however I wish that we had more of New York in it in a bigger way. The movie's pacing is really good and engaging, but the final act had a lot of unbelievable moments. Slashers have tons of unbelievable moments, but Scream has always been unique in being as close to real as possible, which is why I can't get over the writing for the last act. Having said all that, I really did enjoy Scream 6. I left the last one, Scream 5, very impressed and very hopeful of where the series was going. We finally get the sequel, and it delivers. If you enjoyed Scream 6, or you just enjoy the Scream franchise in general, here are a few of my suggestions of movies that you may like. The Strangers, You're Next, and the classic I Know What You Did Last Summer. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click that like button, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, and let me know down in the comment section if you've seen Scream 6 and what you thought about it, or what your favorite Scream movie is, or what's your favorite scary movie. Until next time, see you later.